Emotion! Damn it! We all remember this beautiful article from Union. Russians will soon feel the results of Sierski's trip to Avdeyevka.
Da, sigur. Și-au simțit și rezultatele vizitei lui Zelenski în Avdeyevka, da? Deci, locul unde Zelenski și-a făcut ultimul selfie cu steagul Ucrainei în spate, acolo rușii au venit, au scos acel steag și l-au înlocuit cu steagul rusesc. Deci, practic, atunci când apare Zelenski undeva, e clară treaba, bătălia este ca și pierdută pentru Ucraina.
32 a.m. on the 17th of February, pro-Ukrainian deep state UA confirmed that the Russian army completed the capture of Avdeyevka. Is it just me or everything collapsed so fast? We haven't seen such a...
Da, rapid, spre deosebire de să luăm Bahmut ca exemplu, unde luptele s-au dus până când și ultima sutime de Bahmut a fost eliberată. În Avdeyevka trupele rusești au ocupat gen 10% din teritoriul fizic al orașului, numai că acea străpungere pe centru a destabilizat apărarea ucraineană și a forțat-o să se retragă. Nemaipomenit.
Military debacle in a long time. In order to escape from the Avdeyevka cauldron, our Ukrainian infantry unit simply abandoned their combat positions by foot, having to cross 5 kilometers in open terrain. I don't know what to say. Poor guys, honestly. They were just sacrificed because of the terrible decisions of their general.
Uitându-ne la drumurile alea nămoloase, nu mă ascultă laptopul ăsta. Bă, când îți spun să te oprești, oprește-te ca să vorbești și eu, da? Deci, drumurile alea nămoloase ce înseamnă? Înseamnă că ori fi scăpat, da? Dar doar oameni și doar cu echipamente ușoare. Pentru că echipamentele grele nici nu avea sens să încerce să le evacueze pe acolo, da?
The encirclement were mostly
uitați-vă. Eu văd aici omuleți. Acum nu zic că nu or fi șurele vehicule. Băi, da, eu văd omuleți pur și simplu. Da?
And at night, however, Russian artillery covered this entire sector anyway.
Da.
And you can imagine the resulting effect of Russian firepower on these exposed columns. And regarding this sudden evacuation, General Tarnavsky wrote
exact ca la Mariupol, da? Când nu s-au predat domni, ci au fost evacuați, da? Din Azovstal.
Following on his telegram, the exit of personnel from Avdeyevka took place in a
și iar întrebă care-i treaba cu Avdeyevka ăsta, că am văzut-o scrisă în toate felurile. Ori A-V-D-I-I-V-K-A, ori A-D-V-E-E-V-K-A, Avdeyevka, ia uite ce aici, ce salată de litere, Doamne ferește. Nu știu care este denumirea rusească a orașului. Asta m-ar interesa în primul rând, dacă există.
With the plan. Yes, the most important units were withdrawn a couple of days ago already. But for all the others, all evidence rather points towards a sudden withdrawal and a run for your life type of vibe. He continues, nevertheless, at the final stage of the operation, under the pressure of the prevailing enemy forces, a number of Ukrainian servicemen were captured. We'll look at exactly how many
au fost evacuați.
In the video. The code.
Cât? 500? 1000? Ia, lăsați și voi la comentarii estimările voastre. Ea zice că măcar 1000.
Hope is real though. The Institute of the Study of War claims that the potential capture of Avdeyevka would not be operationally significant. Here from Reuters. What do you mean, Ukraine?
Deci, Avdeyevka rezistă, după care Avdeyevka nu este semnificativă din punct de vedere strategic. Și tot așa, Ceasiviar rezist. Ceasiviar nu este strategic din punct de vedere militar. Și, pe urmă, Kiev rezistă. Kiev nu este atât de important, atât de strategic din punct de vedere militar. Pe urmă, Liov rezistă și pe urmă Liov nu este atât de important, tare, nu?
Leaves part of Avdeyevka. The city's...
Da, și finalul fiind Ucraina rezistă. Aia mă, că nu e atât de importantă până la urmă din punct de vedere militar. Europa rezistă. Am tăcut.
Gone. Then they say no strategic win for Russia.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Even Wikipedia acknowledged the Russian victory. Here from the New York Times. Avdeyevka, longtime stronghold for Ukraine, falls to Russia. That's because everything we see here started in the early stages of the war in Donbass. On the 30th of July 2014, Ukrainian forces secured Avdeyevka from pro-Russian separatists, and the fighting has been raging around the city ever since. On the 8th of February,
Chiar astăzi am văzut un video cu protestul locuitorilor din Avdeyevka care erau nemulțumiți de militarizarea orașului lor de către Ucraina. Vă dați seama că și în Avdeyevka erau tot așa, ruși, peste ruși.
2017, the famous separatist commander Givi was KIA during a major military operation against Avdeyevka. He was very much liked
RIP Givi, așa le cheamă.
by his men, and he was known for his nerves of steel.
Eu o sfârșit de an, de unde vrea până...
Vai, cât de tare!
7 years
Cât de
after
tare! Ați văzut pe toți, fugeau care încotro, se risipeau numai asta, nu? Își pufăia țigara netulbura. Haideți că spuneam ceva aici.
Givi fell on the battlefield.
Givi.
Almost to the day, the Russian capture of Avdeyevka symbolized the end of Ukrainian presence in the immediate vicinity of Donetsk, the separatist capital.
History is watching.
That's why the flag raising of former DPR militias on Avdeyevka is so emblematic. We have the 1st Slavic Brigade celebrating their victory over the Zenit air defense base. The troops of the
Se face pielea de gâscă pe noi. Da, tare.
Nashka Brigade raising their flag over their water pumping station. The drone operators of the Sparta Battalion harassing columns of Ukrainian soldiers retreating out of the city. And here you can see men of the 114th Brigade, originally known as the Vostok Brigade of the DPR, hoisting the banner of Russia over the Avdeyevka coke plant. Personally, I was
Acum, eu cred că Zelenski nu o să treacă niciodată peste tragedia pierderii fabricii de coke. Nu? Eu așa am auzit, ia să mai ascultăm încă o dată.
banner of Russia over the Avdeyevka coke plant. Personally, I was very disappointed by the loss of the coke plant. It was of vital importance for Ukraine. Welcome to History Legends, and here are the latest news of the Russo-Ukraine war. If you're new to this channel, make sure to like and subscribe.
Aceeași rugăminte o am și eu, vă rog să nu uitați de like și abonați-vă dacă nu sunteți abonați.
You know, some of my Ukraine videos have been targeted with limited or no ads. So make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal to keep the show running. Thank you to everyone that has already helped.
Și eu profit de prilej pentru a le mulțumi membrilor canalului Noaptea Minții și celor care mă susțin pe Patreon.
And welcome to the headquarters.
Yeah.
You all remember that was the front line in my last video. The Russian army was only a couple hundred meters away from completing the encirclement of Avdeyevka. With Ukrainian formations melting away, hundreds of soldiers were still stuck in the basements. And that's when Russian aviation sped up the bombardment of the city, crushing the morale of its last defenders. It was reported that between the 15th and the 16th of February, 250 FAB-500 bombs were dropped on Avdeyevka against the advancing Russian forces. The Ukrainian command quickly repatriated and towed all the heavy equipment they could towards the rear.
Ok, deci ați văzut și câteva tancuri.
We can't believe Ukrainian
retrase.
mechanized formations were the first to evacuate from the city, like the 47th
Ce
and
fericiți sunt că pleacă din Avdeyevka, că au scăpat cu viață. Uitați-vă la puștanii ăștia, ce bucuros sunt. Vai, cât îmi place.
mechanized brigades. And this probably already started a couple days ago. They were the last ones that could retreat along what we call the road of life. Now that I think about it, we haven't seen the M2 Bradleys and Leopards in Avdeyevka in a while. Meanwhile, feeling they were getting abandoned, the first infantry units also started abandoning their combat positions. Here you can see the fireworks Ukrainian soldiers saw in the distance as they left the city. The withdrawal was chaotic, to say the least. Amidst the Ukrainian shortage of ammunition, hundreds, thousands of ammo boxes were just left behind in the city, according to Russian reports.
Ok, dacă vreți să vedeți o retragere făcută ca la carte, uitați-vă la retragerea rușilor din Herson. Nu, asta a fost o debandadă. Da?
Reports. Some captured Ukrainian soldiers claimed there was no order to leave, and they essentially learned about it when Syrskyi made his Facebook post.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Așa ceva.
What a disaster!
Așa ceva.
To make matters
Așa
even worse.
ceva. În loc să le vină ordinul pe lanț oficial, stăteau ei, pe telefon, pe Facebook. Ia uite, comandantul nostru suprem a spus că trupele se retrag din Avdeyevka. Dă bă să văd. Ia, ele? Da bă, să mor eu, el este. Uite, are și bifă de aia de persoană publică. Hai, băieții, hai, ne luăm repede pe ce putem pune mâna, ce putem cârca și pe aici ne drumul.
Of course, Russian Telegram reported that the Russian artillery mined the main axis of withdrawal of Ukrainian troops using their Zemlye remote mine-laying systems. In other words, escape was only possible through the sacrifice of the first waves. I stumbled on images and videos on things I wish my eyes never saw. During the 15th and 16th
Cannot be unseen.
of February, with every passing hour, the situation became more critical. Entire battalions melted away as platoons, squads, individual units started withdrawing on their own. Obviously, the
E
task
clar, sunt doar oameni, echipamente mai puțin în faza asta.
was easier for the troops already positioned near the citadel and at the rear. But the mission was almost impossible for the ones stationed near the contact line. Hundreds, maybe thousands of soldiers were essentially trapped and left to their own fate. Only the intervention of the 3rd Assault Brigade Azov saved the day. They regrouped the bulk of their forces in the Avdeyevka coke plant, as you can see in this video of Azov soldiers in the basement of this Soviet-era factory, where they were essentially immune to Russian.
Se vede pe ăștia că erau odihniți, veneau din spate, da? Nu stăteau de luni de zile pe front. Ia uitați-vă la ei.
Artillery shelling. According to this video, we see men of the Wolf platoon of the 2nd Battalion of the 3rd Assault Brigade Azov making a combat sortie. In this one, exiting from a BMP, it's an assault squad of the 3rd Company, 1st Battalion of Azov that stormed buildings occupied by the enemy. From the industrial area, they fought all along this direction to hold long enough for all the other units to withdraw. Without
Da?
the
De ce au făcut sau ce au încercat să facă? Au fost să mențină pâlnia deschisă să se poate retrage restul trupelor. Da? Și au avut oricum unele probleme pe teren, inclusiv cu trupele ucrainene, care nu au vrut să împartă tranșeele, să spunem așa, sau să ia la ei în tranșee pe luptătorii de la Azov.
the sacrifice of Azov, we can say that a good 3,000 to 5,000 Ukrainian soldiers would have been trapped. An entire brigade gone. During these deadly firefights, this captain of an Azov company was captured near the train station. To keep it PG, let's just say that many Azov guys left the Avdeyevka Discord server during their rescue mission. Here you can literally see them attack the enemy across this field and take up positions in this industrial sector. Some claim that the Azov Brigade actually refused to carry out their combat orders, but all evidence shows the exact opposite. I wanted to show you this post, a tragic post. He has not seen life, he has only seen war. 20-year-old fighter Andrei Truhan was KIA while ensuring the withdrawal of troops from Avdeyevka. Call sign Stitch, a brave fighter of the Paragon detachment.
Nu sunt foarte încântat de acest simbol.
He defended our country from the age of 18 Andrei went through a lot of hard battles. Kiev, Bakhmut, Solidar. The last battle was in the hottest place, Avdeyevka. Sincere condolences to the family. On top of the Azov Brigade, this massive retreat was also covered by various units of Ukrainian special forces, just like in Bakhmut. How many times is Ukraine going to go through this same pattern? You cannot wage a battle of attrition when the enemy has 5 times a numerical advantage. In the last hours all over the city, reports mentioned abandoned Ukrainian pockets of resistance, groups that had lost contact with their headquarters and that were now left on their own. We can believe a certain number were captured.
Acum poate o să ne spună și numărul celor capturați, dacă îl știe.
Without even realizing what had happened. And that's when the Avdeyevka cauldron quickly started collapsing on itself, like a domino effect. One by one, Ukrainian positions fell to the advancing tide of Russian soldiers. On the 16th of February, assault detachments of the 35th Separate Guards Motor Rifle Brigade captured the railway station of Avdeyevka. Here you can see the video they recorded to immortalize this victory.
Где поднял российский флаг, там он опускаться не должен. Секиры, слова, висит император.
Wow, n-a mai rămas nimic din clădire.
Мы, в этом случае 55-й отдельной гвардейской высокой бригады Горной, чтим славных традиций наших отцов и предков. Освобождая Ясиноватовский район города Авдеевка, мы еще раз доказываем, что за правоту наших действий победа будет за нами, враг будет свержен. Ура!
Notice the flag on the left side. That's the regional flag of the Tuvan Autonomous Oblast in Siberia. Many of them are Buddhists, and in this picture you can see some of them celebrate what I think is the Mongolian Lunar New Year. Meanwhile, their comrades of the 55th Brigade raised their battle flags on a Soviet World War II memorial dedicated to the fallen soldiers of the 1943 Battle of Avdeyevka.
Dacă nu mă înșel, este din parcul central din Avdeyevka.
In the south, after capturing Zenit, DPR stormtroopers captured the highway
Zenit ce era? Apărarea antiaeriană, parcă. Ok.
overpass in the Chiborashka district. By the evening of February 16th, it became clear that the Ukrainians had organized a massive withdrawal towards the citadel, as you can see on this map by Deep State, UA. At that point, the Ukrainian garrison had abandoned the bulk of their fighting positions. And it was reported that the total number of troops of the armed forces of Ukraine still in Avdeyevka was estimated between 1,500 and 2,000 military personnel. I mean, imagine you're one of them. Fuck. You keep getting told that the enemy is suffering astronomical casualties, that victory is near, and then all of a sudden they say, GG, well played, everyone get out. The night of February 16th was their last chance to escape from the Avdeyevka cauldron. As you can see on screen, the last Ukrainian units headed out in small groups across open terrain. For the most part, they had no other choice but to abandon their wounded comrades behind. A couple hours later, Deep State UA updated the map. Not only had Ukraine lost the citadel, but they had also lost the Avdeyevka coke plant. How can we say that anything of this was planned? This was a rout.
Nu-i problemă oricum că presupun că pe răniți au găsit rușii care imediat au ocupat zonele eliberate de ucraineni.
And of course, Russian troops did not wait too long to push forward. Into the breach! Here you can see Russian riflemen hoisting the white-blue-red flag over the coke plant that they tried to storm head-on in October 2023. In this one we learned that it's the 74th Guards Motor Rifle Brigade that captured the southern part of the sandstone quarry.
Сегодня, 17 февраля 2024 года, штурмовиками разведывательного батальона
Ăsta-i rus? Probabil. Da? Dar e asiatic.
74-й гвардейской бригады был освобожден населенный пункт Авдеевка. Пользуясь случаем, хотим передать пламенный привет нашим землякам. Казань, Шаран, Аргас, Новосибирск, Омск, Черепаново, Татарстан, Казань,
Антамансийск
и Красноярск.
Surprisingly, a lot of the Russian troops that stormed Avdeyevka were from Siberia, just like during the Battle of Stalingrad. All over the city, Russian troops celebrated
Yeah.
their victory after months of heavy fighting. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get the infamous Fortnite dance.
N-a fost
from Bakhmut.
ăla la
Everywhere.
Bahmut a fost, da? Da, asta e.
Weapon depots were left as is, not even destroyed. Even in the headquarters, they found all the
Da, și la Bahmut dansul ăla parcă din drone era filmat.
documents about the various units defending the city. Yet, everything was planned. As of now, the total number of Ukrainian prisoners of war is unknown. The Russians went around the city with loudspeakers,
Unknown, neștiut.
to get the last defenders out. We will get a final answer when the Russian troops are done combing through the city street by street. But here we have an early estimate. Allegedly, according to a Ukrainian deputy called Piotr Derbal, the losses during the withdrawal amounted to 850 soldiers KIA or captured. And this included 350 wounded soldiers that were left behind during the evacuation. This victory was
Eu am zis 1000, nu? Băi, am fost pe aproape.
attributed to Russian Colonel General
Bine,
Matvey.
el a spus aici ceva de pierderi. Ok? În fine, nu e important.
Chef. Yes, the same that Ukraine claimed to have control out deleted on March 19th, 2022 near Mariupol. Anyway, after storming Mariupol, Mortvichev resurrected and came back to capture Avdeyevka. In terms of casualties, for Russian losses, we have to look on Media Zona. We noticed a sharp rise in early October, coinciding with the start of the offensive on Avdeyevka. Let's just say the first few weeks were rough. Overall, from the 10th of October to the 14th of February, 6,154 Russian soldiers were KIA. If 60% of those were related to the Avdeyevka sector, that's roughly 3,700 soldiers KIA. As
Da? Deci nu sunt cifrele enorme pe care le vehiculează propagandiști. Uite, doar la Avdeyevka, de pe 10 octombrie până pe 14 februarie, conform Media Zona, care este o organizație, să ne înțelegem, susținută de Occident, 3700 de decese în rândul soldaților ruși.
for Ukrainian losses,
Și, per total, ar fi 50 de mii de la începutul campaniei în februarie 2022 și acum urmează trollingul, da?
the big question you're wondering at this point is, what now? There's still 70 kilometers to the Donetsk Oblast border. For the Russian army, the task is simple. Reorganize, keep momentum going, and push the front as far as possible. The first step could be to clear this Orlivka salient.
Acum eu cred că ăștia stau o vreme liniștiți, da? Să-și consolideze pozițiile și probabil o să intensifice acțiunile ofensive în zona Zaporoj. Da, la Robotine, celebrul Robotine, unde înțeleg că deja trupele rusești au intrat în sudul sătucului, deocamdată.
Push the front line a couple kilometers and perhaps also deal with the salient between Pervomaivsky and Nevelsky. One obvious option would be for the Russians to continue their offensive along the Donetsk front and push towards Pokrovsk, which is essentially one of the largest logistical hubs for Ukraine. In other words, like an Amazon warehouse. However, notice that with Avdeyevka secured, the Russian army could concentrate their forces in this sector and just push north along the H20 highway directly into the rear of Kramatorsk. This would cut the supply lines coming from Pokrovsk, but it could also easily be coupled with a simultaneous attack coming from the east in Bakhmut. Thus, the Russians would take the city into a pincer. As for Ukraine, the mood is pretty gloomy. Morale is down. Abrams tanks were seen moving towards the front line, and infantry units are already digging in and preparing new defensive positions.
Dacă acum le pregătesc, știu și eu, fi bine.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Minister of Defense said that the lessons learned from Avdeyevka are: 1, they need more air defense, 2, more artillery shells, and 3, more fortifications. Nothing was said about better tactical or operational skills. But by looking at this, it becomes clear that for 2024, Ukraine has not planned any offensive operations and will thus remain on strategic defense all along the front line. There were also rumors that General Syrskyi began complaining, just like Zaluzhny, about the lack of support for the army by the Ukrainian society, both in terms of economic output and manpower. That's all.
Acum, pe bune, vrei ca această societate să și muncească pentru armată, da? Dar să și furnizeze armatei carne de T și U și N. Parcă nu merg ambele împreună. Mulțumesc pentru vizionare, nu uitați de like și vă aștept